Welcome to Going Down the Line. I'm Steven from Virginia, and that's Chase Gilmer, and we're here to talk Baylor football this week.
Let's do it.
However painful it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Baylor lost to TCU 42 to 36 after a riveting comeback that nobody saw. Thank you, ESPN, for blacking out the game for everyone not in the stadium. Um, Chase, how frustrated are you with Baylor football right now?
Man, where do I even begin, in all honesty? Um, I guess I could start with, Baylor has had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. They had so much time to get things situated with their defense. This is, they find themselves in the same situation as last season, except albeit this is where they started off 4-2 instead of 2-4. So they had a good chance to not just, make adjustments like to their defense as well to a little extent as their offense, but, to run the table in the Big 12. They had a really good shot because they had things going their way going into the game to beat their long arch rivals who, mind you, going into the game, they were 2-8 against in their last 10. And yet, this is how they play. This is how they look coming out of a bye week. Like they looked so unprepared. And that's the thing that, frustrates me the most is that it almost feels like we're talking about this every single week. But this time around, it's not just a defensive issue. Our offense looked terrible as well. And like you can say, oh, they scored 36 points. How is that? We got a touchdown from defense. Sawyer Robertson threw 3 interceptions. Bryson Washington fumbled the ball, which you can say that, Sawyer Robertson should have held on to that on an RPO. Like, there are just so many things that went so wrong in Saturday's game, and it could have just been all avoided. But yet, the fact that they came out so unprepared speaks volumes to
Mm-hmm.
how bad, not just that game was, but potentially how the rest of the season could go.
Well, and it's the same song, different verse, right? They come out unprepared. They come out down, you know, and they get down what 21 to 10, and then 28 to 10, and then they come storming back when nobody can watch, and the game looks respectable. I'm here to say this: Baylor football is like that girl that keeps letting you down over and over again, and you keep letting her back in, and she keeps letting you down the exact same way every single time. And eventually, you got no one to blame for but yourself, for believing. And it's really exhausting. Baylor was down 42-21 or 42, yeah, something like
Yeah.
42-21 because they got the extra, or they got the 2-point conversion in the field goal when the Lightning struck. And they come back and score, you know, a huge amount of point or a couple of touchdowns and almost win the game. And somehow this time I feel like Baylor fans are not putting up with that. This was not acceptable. And, I'm tired of losing to TCU, and I'm tired of losing coming out the gate looking unprepared. I get that there was rain. I get that, the sloppy, that there could be sloppy play from that. But TCU didn't look sloppy.
You
I
took the
just
words right out of my mouth right there. I was about to
Right?
say
TCU
TCU,
didn't look
yeah.
sloppy. So why are we the only ones affected? When Matt Rule gave his press conference, he said it shouldn't matter the weather, it shouldn't matter who's playing, it shouldn't matter who's hurt. Good teams win on the road. And point blank, period. And Baylor football gets a huge opportunity to come out and try it again against Cincinnati this week, but I'm just not fooled. I'm not fooled anymore. And to piggyback off of a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, we were sitting here saying, don't fall off the wagon. Don't jump off the wagon. Keep believing in this staff. Keep believing in this team. I am done with that. I am done with that. And I'm as close to done with that as we were when we did the show talking about, you know, at 2-4 last year. And I saw Cam Stewart of Locked On Baylor say this. You know, the first half of last season sucked. The year before that sucked. The year before that sucked. When does this get to be fun? Like, thank you, Cam Stewart, for giving a voice to people like us. Because when does this get to be fun?
Yeah, I mean, you and Cam Stewart are right on that for sure. Like we just want Baylor football to be fun again, and in all honesty, we haven't felt that this was fun into since 2021. And I mean, granted, outside of that 6-game stretch last year, everything has just not. It's not been fun. I mean, there's so much blame to go around all this. You can blame, like coaching, you can blame strength and conditioning, which let's be real, there's no strength because of missed tackles, and there's no conditioning because our defense looks slow. So you can blame that. You can blame, personnel, you can blame players, you can blame evaluation. But in the very end, this all falls under Dave Aranda. I've wanted him to succeed ever since he got here. I liked his defensive mindedness when he came from LSU after they won the national title. I liked the kind of, at the time his, laid back approach. But the fact that our defense has cratered the past 4 seasons, and just everything is just falling off, like everything's coming apart, just makes everything he's doing just completely stale. um right now maybe is not the time that Dave Aranda has to be let go, but it has to come by season's end. And heck, if I mean, I don't. We're gonna have a hard time facing Cincinnati this Saturday. So I really don't know how we can expect us to win that game given what we saw on Saturday. But if we struggle against UCF in homecoming, even if we win that game, I think it's time to pull the plug, because when you're struggling against who I would consider to be the second worst team in the conference, that shows you have bigger problems um than we really should have. So yeah, I mean this all falls under Dave Aranda's shoulders, and I would also say this kind of falls just a tiny bit on Matt Rhodes, because after 2023, when we all thought he should have been let go, Matt Rhodes decided to retain him. I'm not here to say he takes a lot of it, but he does partially have some blame to that.
Well, and I was thinking of this, we're talking about 3 bad seasons, or getting ready for 3 bad seasons in the last 4. And, we're getting ready for 4 bad seasons out of 6. Or at least 4 seasons where we were not where we wanted to be. When does this become like an issue for the people in the administration? And I'll go one step further. No matter how many games this Baylor football team wins this year, the paying customer is upset. People like you, me, people who pay for tailgate lots, people who pay for season tickets. We saw it during the Kansas State game. They got down 2 touchdowns and the whole building left. So at what point does it become about the paying customer and the people who put the time, the money, and the effort into going to watch this football team? And at what point do they get to be heard? Because for the last few years, nobody has been heard about how upset we were about the state of the program. And here we are now in a world where Indiana is a top 5 team, Vanderbilt can beat LSU, and
Texas Tech, Texas Tech. Let's not forget about them.
Texas Tech, and SMU can make the playoff. But Baylor is sat here relegated to this. it's beyond frustrating, it's beyond maddening, and it's almost beyond comprehension. Because, if this is what it's supposed to be, then this is not going to be very fun.
Yeah, no, you're totally right on that. And I mean, I would also go one step further and say, you know, if and we talked about this after our loss, like just us two one on one. If Ryan Day at Ohio State, if he went 1-5 against Michigan, you would 100% be sure he wouldn't be keeping his job. And you know, you the listeners might say that might be an unfair comparison, but I'm so tired of losing to TCU. I'm so tired of feeling this way about us being so completely mediocre in a conference that we should be contending. Baylor is in the heart of Texas. Baylor has recruiting pipelines for days, whether it's in Temple or Fort Worth or Dallas or Houston, wherever. And yet we're struggling to put in a good defense. We're struggling to keep up with, teams like Texas Tech and BYU and shoot TCU. This should not be happening. At least in this day and age where we've now got our crap together as far as NIL is concerned, as far as transfer portal is concerned, this shouldn't be happening.
Right? We should not be living in a world where the Baylor coach has 4 disappointing seasons in 6.
Yeah.
3 disappointing seasons in 4. And that's just universally okay. And I get that there are a lot of programs chasing after coaches, a lot of programs going to fire coaches. I get that we might not be the first one at the bowl for dinner. But like, this is unacceptable, man. This is unacceptable. And like, how can people sit here and say, like, I could sit there at 4-2 and reasonably say, well, if we run the table, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. What do you say now at 4-3? What do you say now at 4-3 when the effort you just put against TCU doesn't make it look like you can beat any of the teams left on your schedule? Like, what if this team goes 5-7? What if this team goes 4-8? Well, what are we going to do then? Is it okay? Are we just going to? Because here's the thing. At that point, we're losing the recruits anyway. Nobody's coming to play for a sorry team whose fans aren't in the stands and who can't win. Like, nobody wants to be a part of that. And I'm just beyond disbelief at how this could have happened this way.
Yeah, and as much as we've complained about attendance, just imagine what it's going to look like on homecoming if and when we lose on Saturday. It's going to be really bad. And if we retain Dave Aranda, it's going to be even worse in 2026. So,
Right. Who's going to show up because I've seen multiple Baylor fans say, if Dave Aranda's brought back, I'm not renewing my tailgate. I'm not renewing my season tickets. And they're not the only ones who feel that way.
yeah.
And so, like, what are we going to do? Because football is supposed to be a revenue stream for the university. And now your paying customers are upset, Mac Rhodes. Your paying customers are upset, Linda Livingstone. Make a decision. Make the tough decision. And you know what? I wouldn't be mad if they made it after this week, and let Jake Spavital get a crack at it, But at the same time, I don't think that's going to happen.
I
I'm
think if
just
they
so
were
sick
going
of
to
all of this.
I think if they were going to fire him mid-season, it would have to be after UCF because we have a bye week after that game.
For sure.
But I mean, the fact of the matter is, we're as we've said ad nauseum now. This is year 6. The trajectory is going downhill. Colt Barber made the comparison on his thoughts after the game, where even after we went 1-11 in 2017, he could see the upward trajectory for the team.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's things have plateaued and are just going downhill from there. But the one thing I do want to point out is, as much as I understand why Matt Rhodes decided to retain Aranda after the disaster that was 2023. Looking back, I think that was the wrong move because now that we're starting to talk about this now, although we never really envisioned any of the stuff that was going to happen, if we're going to make a head coaching change now, we're going to have to go against schools like Arkansas, like Florida, like Oklahoma State, Penn State, potentially Florida State to actually get a decent head coach. And I mean, maybe you can make the argument that the head coaching pool, at least this time around, might be better than it was in 2023. But the fact that there are bigger and better schools that are vying for a new head coach, that's what makes this like that's what scares me. Because if at this point we're not going to be the first one at the table for most head coaches. So to me, this says if we're going to fire Dave Aranda, then expect 2026 to be worse.
Well, and I don't think you can expect it to be better whether you keep him or whether you fire him. You know, who's going to stay around for this if this thing doesn't turn around?
Exactly, yeah. And I'm of the proponent that even if we go 6-6 and we do make a bowl, there's no way Aranda keeps his job.
Mm-mm.
So I mean, I think
This team
Mac
was supposed
Rhodes,
to be a Big 12 title contender. To go
yeah,
6-6 would be monumentally disappointing.
yeah. I'm of the proponent that Mac Rhodes needs to understand. And look, maybe he does. I don't know. I doubt he's fine with this. But just the way this whole thing has happened just shows the lack of, a backbone. And on top of that, if we don't get our crap together soon, when all of the super conference stuff is said and done, we might be out, like we might be the first ones out of the table. Something needs to be done
What
about it, and it
happens
needs to
to
be
the
done right
rest of the
now.
litter? He dies.
Yeah,
We love
exactly.
Baylor football. We want Baylor to keep playing football on the major level. But that's not going to happen if this team can't get it together.
Yeah,
And it
it's certainly
wasn't
not.
that long ago that Baylor was a top 5 school in football. So why are we here? Why I'm just so frustrated. I can't. It's just I'm tired of losing to TCU. I'm tired of coming out the gate, getting our butts kicked in the first half, storming all the way back, and then not finishing the deal. This is
Yeah,
how the beginning of last season felt. And the problem is over and over and over again the same.
yeah,
Something changed.
yeah. I mean, if this was a one-time thing, especially with the offense, I mean, I would probably be like a little bit more lenient. But this has been happening ever since 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Something needs to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of feel like I've gotten it out of my system. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Cincinnati game? Baylor's currently like a 5.5 point favorite or underdog, excuse me, to Cincinnati in a road game. Um, Not looking. I don't feel that great about Baylor's prospects going on the road to play a team that's possibly Big 12 championship bound. Do you feel great about it?
No, in all honesty. I mean, again, if we would have played better last week, then maybe I'd feel just a little bit better. But again, that final score is not a good indicator of how bad the game was. I mean, missing tackles left and right, our offense just, sputtering right out of the gate, aside from the first touchdown. Um, it just, you know,
Couldn't run
this,
the football, couldn't stop the run. You're not going to win
yeah.
many football
And
games that
look,
way.
look, and on top of that, sorry, going back to the TCU game for just a minute. What makes it really disappointing is that TCU had more rushing yards in that game than they did in their 3 previous games combined. So, if we're struggling that much against a very inept run offense, imagine what a top-ranked Cincinnati is going to be like against us on Saturday. That's not a recipe for anything great at all. So, I don't care if we have Sawyer Robertson at the quarterback. He's not the one leading the defense. He's not the one that's calling the plays on defense. He's not the one that has to make that key tackle. So I honestly don't know how this anything, at least on defense, is going to go well on Saturday against Cincinnati.
Well, and I totally agree because this defense has been a poor tackling unit for multiple seasons now, and I'm not sure how you fix it. And you know what I know though, Dave Aranda's not sure how to fix it either because this has been a problem for 3 or 4 years now. This
Yeah,
unit cannot tackle, and there may have been injuries, but you know what? This was supposed to be the best linebacker group he had all ever at Baylor, and this secondary has actually been better than what we thought it would be. And
yeah.
this was supposed to be a real weak unit on this team and supposed to get tested constantly. But instead, it's the run defense and the tackling that's getting tested constantly. And I just can't see any way for Baylor to beat Cincinnati this weekend.
I mean, I'm very disappointed by our performance from our linebackers, in all honesty. I mean, Keaton Thomas has been okay, but just the rest of it has just been so bad. I mean, you know, I remember there was one specific play where I was just like, man, where's the communication? And that was that first and goal touchdown pass to their new tight end. I forgot his name. I know his last name was Pryor, I think, but like there was some miscommunication between who was supposed to cover him, both from linebackers and safety.
Oh,
Yeah, you know
goodness.
exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm sure our viewers know that too. But I mean, it's really just been up the middle. That's just been so bad. And it's compounded by the fact that on offense, we can't even run up the middle all that well. So,
Can't
and
run the football, can't stop the run.
yeah.
It's
And
it's a terrible way to watch football.
I think another thing that, and Lord forbid this happens on Saturday, but I think another thing about, our performance this season that has really been irritating has been our third down plays, because more than likely we're going to be going for it on fourth down. Like, I want to say at
More
most
fourth most
40%.
attempts to go at fourth down in the country.
Exactly. But the point is, and I'm getting this off of Sikkim 365, our third down play calling has really been booty because we're more than likely going to go for it on fourth down. And I mean, I don't have any proof of that, but you can actually kind of see it, the effort. Just, it's just not there because not like almost 9 times out of 10, we're going to be going for it on a fourth down. So the third down play calling is just getting pitted because of that. And so, Lord forbid that happens on Saturday, but it's just like, you know, if unless something changes on defense, you know, and if we're going to be a little bit more conservative, I hate to say that, but if we play a little bit more conservative, maybe we pull off an upset. It's just I don't see how you can do that right now.
I can't tell you how many times in my living room or wherever I'm watching Baylor football that I say, "Punt the football, Dave. Punt the football. Kick the football, Dave. Kick the football."
Yeah,
It's like a weekly thing, man. And like I understand that we have gone for it and we have converted at a high rate, but like, man, not high enough to keep going for it every stinking time.
yeah. I mean, they were showing that the graphic on the game Saturday, where like in the top, like sub like 70 or sub 80 in fourth down conversion rate. So, I mean, yeah, part of that's because we go for it on fourth down a lot, but just that's not a great rate.
Not
So,
a great rate.
but yeah, I mean that's really all I can think of when it comes to this game. I know we kind of went back and forth talking about Cincinnati and then going back to TCU there, but in all honesty, this is a recipe for disaster. I don't know how we can expect to win this game at all.
Vibes are
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, exactly.
Vibes are bad, and how are they going to get any better? And like, I understand that we were in this place when Baylor was 2-4, but like, I'm just exhausted and frustrated with this, and it's not fun anymore. And like last year, we were on the precipice of it not being fun anymore, and like, I just feel bad for the rest of our fans because they deserve so much better.
Yeah, and even in our wins, it's not been fun. I mean, when you think about it, we are a missed field goal kick by both SMU and Kansas State away from actually being 2-5. That
Mm,
is something that you have to take into consideration if we're going to be
mm.
making a head coaching change, is that we could easily be 2-5 right now if it wasn't for those two things.
We absolutely could. Are you ready to make some picks of the week?
Uh, yeah, if it prevents us from talking about the the game on Saturday
Oh
anymore.
my
So
gosh, I hope so.
yeah. All right. So the first game we're picking is Syracuse at number 7, Georgia Tech. That game kicks off at noon Eastern on ESPN. Georgia Tech is a 17.5 point favorite. I'll go first in this one. I'm very excited about what Georgia Tech has done. I think in many ways we like, at least until recently, I've always envisioned Baylor being like Georgia Tech. But obviously that doesn't it's not the case anymore. But with that being said, I'm going with the Yellow Jackets, and I'm actually going to take them to cover or beat that 17.5 point spread.
I'm taking Georgia Tech too. Syracuse is on their backup quarterback. If they had their original starter in, I may view this differently, but give me Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I'm glad we agree. It's funny to think Syracuse is 1-3 in the ACC. You know who that one win is from?
Clemson.
Yep. So they have issues of their own as well. All right. So second game we're gonna pick is number 8 Ole Miss at number 13 Oklahoma. That is also a noon kickoff time on ABC. Oklahoma is a 4.5 point favorite. Steven, who do you got in that game?
Give me Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner. Give me the home team.
I'm actually gonna go with Ole Miss in this one. I
Ooh.
think with all due respect to everyone except for Brent Venables, and you know exactly what I'm talking about because of the things he said about the Big 12. Um, I think their game against UT showed that this team isn't as invincible as we thought, and with Ole Miss having so many, uh, you know, bigger weapons. Yes, they did lose to Georgia, but it's really hard to beat Georgia unless you're Bama. So I'm picking the Rebels in this one.
All right.
All right, next one we're gonna be picking is the Sunflower Showdown, Kansas State at Kansas, which feels weird saying that that's happening this early on. Noon kickoff time on TNT. Kansas is a 3.5 point favorite. I'm picking the Jayhawks to finally beat Kansas State in this one. I think they're the better team. I think, they're better, like, they're much more well rounded. Um, Kansas State has their own problems, not from quarterback, but just from other things like execution and everything. So I'm picking the Jayhawks to finally beat Kansas State.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm taking Kansas State. Give me the Wildcats.
All right, well, we'll see about that on Saturday. Next game we're picking is hold on, I just had it here. Oh yes, number 15 Mizzou at number 10 Vanderbilt. College game day is gonna be there. Bleh. Oh well. But
Oh
it's
my
a
God. Don't
3:30
get me
kickoff.
started on that.
It's a 3:30 kick. Okay, hold on. With all due respect to Vanderbilt, the fact that their top 10 team is amazing. Just somebody else from the that's not SEC, please. Just go somewhere
We
else.
used to be a proper society where the
Yes.
college game day would go wherever and anywhere.
I mean,
Now college game day will only go to SEC
you
games.
got number 1 versus number 2 in the FCS. You could have
Mm-hmm.
they should have gone there instead. But anyways, we're getting sidetracked here. Yeah, so Mizzou at Vanderbilt, 3:30 kickoff time on ESPN. Vandy is favored by 2.5 points. Steven, who do you got?
Give me Mizzou. I like Mizzou to bounce back.
I'm actually gonna go not so fast, my friend, on you there, and actually pick
Ooh.
Vanderbilt on this one. Um, Listen, I don't like Diego Pavia, but I respect him. So I think he's a really good quarterback. So I'm gonna pick the home team in this one. I think it's gonna be a close one though.
Okay.
All right. So last game we're picking is God, your Baylor Bears at number 21 Cincinnati. It is a 4 p.m. kickoff time on ESPN2. Cincinnati is somehow favored by only 4.5 points. And I think Cincinnati is going to very much beat that spread. Um, Again, I don't see how you look at last week's game and just say, oh, Baylor's going to bounce back here when Baylor now has a almost sub 100 defense on SP plus, which is second worst, only ahead of Oklahoma State in Power 4 schools.
Mhm.
And look, we might put up points. I think this will be a shootout, but I also think in the very end, Cincy's going to win by 14.
Yeah, give me Cincinnati in a big win, like 49-41. Covers the spread, beats Baylor in a shootout. The only way Baylor could win this game, they lose it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's just not looking good for us in all honesty, but um man, hopefully they pull it out. I don't see it in all honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna say sick 'em Bears and later, guys.
All right, sick and bears. See y'all
Sick 'em
next week.
Bears later, guys.